Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sakamoto Days, Season 1, Episode 14. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with the Sakamoto store situation, and I freaking knew it. I got some parts wrong because I thought like Heisuke might be involved in the fight because I thought maybe he might, I don't know, positioning where he is in that tower. I thought like maybe he'd like snipe like towards the store or something like that. That was my out there theory, but I was right about Nagumo being disguised as Aoi because I was like, first and foremost, a clear sign should have been, of course, with everything going on, Sakamoto would never leave like Aoi in a position just to be somewhere by herself, especially where these people probably know where most likely to find him, so of course. But I said it last episode, why wouldn't Aoi be anywhere without Hannah? It's like maybe she's in school, but still, like, if Aoi's at the store more often than not, Hannah's right beside her. They're kind of a package deal. Like, you know, Hannah is attached to her by the hip, so. But yeah, I thought it was interesting because Minimalist is like, yo, I hate liars, and pretending to be Aoi, Nagumo's like, oh, I hate liars too. And it's like, oh, like, I don't know where Sakamoto is. So, well, wasn't lying either because it was like, yo, I know, did say like, oh, he's at his therapist, which he was. So, his physical therapist, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but Minimalist was like, no, you're lying to me. Because at first I was like, oh, can you tell when someone's lying? But I'm like, no, told you the truth. And, I wonder or could it be that even Nagumo didn't know where he was, just assumed he knew where he was? Like that might, Minimalist might have known like, oh, you are lying to me. I just know that maybe he's got a little bit of a lie radar or something like that. Because it could just be like Nagumo like guessed. He just assumed where Sakamoto was and didn't know for a fact. But I don't know. Because like we know he was at the physical therapist. So, but either way. Minimalist. I even love like when he crushes up the cash register, and it's like, oh, what happened to the money inside of that? And then proceeds to rip. And her calmness, I was like, it's definitely Nagumo. And so he starts choking her, and then immediately Nagumo loves that tactic of, okay, first and foremost, grabs his arm, pulls it away, and goes for the quick strike with a knife. He's like, oh. Almost thought that was over, huh? But then he always keeps that toy knife around because he loves messing with people. But it also feels like that's part of something to the fact is he keeps the knife around concerning what his main weapon actually is. But we'll get to that in a second. But he's just playing with Minimalist at this point because Minimalist can't even land. Like the only time Minimalist landed to even touch Nagumo was when he was pretending to be Aoi. That's the only time you were able to lay your hands on him. The moment he was even half taking the fight seriously, but you can make arguments about that. He's just teleporting all over the place. He ends up snatching your phone away. Oh, like, oh, doesn't look like you got Slur's number. Oh, doesn't seem like you got any friends either. It's like, oh, well, let's look through the rest of your phone, see what else is hidden here. And he's like, ooh, you're really big on privacy, huh? And he's just like tossing stuff, and Nagumo's like, hey, come on, let's not trash the place up too much. You know, Sakamoto is going to be mad at me because Sakamoto asked them to keep watch over like the shop for him because he's like, he needs someone to kind of keep an eye out for like Aoi and Hannah. And it's just like, I don't want to, but it's like, you owe me. So I'm curious, I guess maybe something from back in the day. Maybe this is a debt from like well over 5 years ago before he left the order and left the Hitman world. For him to be calling it in and Nagumo not give him much, she's like, fine, whatever. Like, the fact is he had to capitulate means, like, oh, it must have been a pretty big deal. Like, something pretty major that you owe him that he's able to call in this favor. I don't know why. I thought Minimalist would have put up more of a fight, but I guess really Apart's probably the strongest of them. I just thought Minimalist would have probably put up more of a fight, but it's like, I guess the argument could be like, well, if he was against anyone else, sure, but Nagumo outclasses him in everything. He's pretty fast for his size, but like Minimalist can't do anything. He's crunching stuff, throwing at Nagumo. And when he disappears, that's one of my favorite parts of the fight. That's so sick when he goes over to like the drink session and opens like the fridge, and Nagumo disguised himself as Minimalist, pretending to be his reflection, goes over and just grabs him. And it's like, despite how small he is, Nagumo is ridiculously strong. And it makes you wonder, is there anything to his circumstances, or just like, nah, that's just Nagumo. There's nothing to that. I wonder if there's some, because I'm jumping all over the place. He can shapeshift, so I'm almost wondering, can like he shape, because he can change so much of his body. I wonder, does Nagumo like control his muscles like that? So like he's able to adjust his muscles just like he can shapeshift into people. Maybe he can shapeshift his muscles so like he can expand them to great lengths. So maybe that's, if you want to break it down, maybe that's how his superhuman strength works, or maybe not. Like I said, maybe it's just nah, that's just Nagumo's constitution. But then it's like, yeah, let's get serious with this fight. And so it's like, right, I'm not going to get any more information out of you. Seems like you don't know anything. So let's end this, And he draws out his real weapon. His weapon, I had to look up the term because I'd completely forgotten the term Swiss Army knife, or multi-tool is what it's also known. But I could not remember the term Swiss Army knife. But I was like, oh yeah, it's a giant Swiss Army knife. And he's like, cool. You get to pick like one to six. He's like, it's so boring if you kill people the same way over and over again. So I have a weapon that allows me to kill people 6 different ways. And he's like, go ahead, you get to choose 1 through 6. And he pulls out the dice, and then it disappears. He's like, oh, where'd it go? And it was inside Minimalist's mouth, and it's 3. He's like, oh, 3, huh? And it turns into it's the can opener, and just within seconds decapitates him. I was like, gee, and just also like his head spinning in the air like that. And it's like, wow. And then he also has the audacity to still use it as a can opener after he wins. It's crazy. So we have that. Then we pick up with Zhao Tang, Shin, and Sakamoto. And it becomes, well, the fact is they're at his physical therapist, Mia. Apparently she is kind of like well known in the Hitman world. She's like the #1 healer. She's like 98 years old. But yeah, what was it, the nickname he said they call her, like the hand of God or something like that, because she can pretty much heal anything as long as you're not dead. But yeah, she's helping Shin with acupuncture, like hitting those pressure points in his back. It's like, cool, keep them in your back like for the rest of the day. But she says going forward, that power of his, he could only limit himself to 5 minutes a day, which I was like, oh, there's definitely going to be like a time limit on how much he could use that. Now, I've talked, once again, I get into the nitty gritty of techniques like that I'm like, is it 5 minutes in total? Meaning, like, if he stops, does the timer reset? So, like, say he uses it for 1 minute one day. Does that mean for the rest of the day he still has only 4 minutes? Or if he waits a little bit, does that timer reset and he's back to 5 minutes? Once again, is it that important? No, but I'm always curious about like whether anything works like that. But I'm sure it's like 5 minutes in total. I think there's probably no recovering that or resetting the time. It's probably like once he's used that 1 minute, he has 4 minutes. Or maybe it's a thing of once you activated it, there's no shutting it off. I don't know. Either way, she's also checking. Well, she also gave Zhao Tang the hangover cure she needed. It's soup with, I think, what was it? With clams in it, or was it something else? So that's the only thing she needed. And then she kind of does her thing for Sakamoto, feels a certain pressure point. She's like, it hurts if you're angry. He's like, it doesn't hurt at all. He's like, oh my God, it hurts. She's like, I get it. They went after people you care about, so it's understandable to be angry, but you don't want to rush into things because you're going to get, like, that's just going to be a recipe for disaster. She also points out that Sakamoto's basically at 30% of what he used to be back in the day. Like, it's like, wow, he dropped a lot in that 5 years. I guess he wasn't training at all during that time frame. Like, he still has his skills, but they're just not up to par. And she kind of rubs salt in the wound because that conversation came up, I believe, in not last episode, but the episode before last, in episode 12, about the whole Nagumo being like, oh, I'm actually like way higher than you, because it's like, I think, didn't he say like Sakamoto would be like a B and he's S, and Sakamoto would be a B or something like that, and Mia rubbing that in his face, just, it irks him. I think he feels like the one person I never want to be weaker than and lower than on the totem pole is Nagumo. Maybe it's just part of like that, maybe they just have that very competitive relationship. Either way, before Sakamoto leaves, she hits him with a technique, and she's like, okay, that'll probably do you some good in the long run. Even later on, he's like, oh, I do feel a little bit better, like that was good. And even says it later on, Mia Baba always knows best, But either way, Heisuke is still enjoying his time at the tower, and he's looking at the glass floor. He's like, yeah, I know I should be messing around, but I'm not messing around. Grandma always say when you're looking for something, if you look down, it'll be right underneath your nose. And just as he says that, Oh, a part is literally walking beneath him. Before he can even slice up a guy, Heisuke fires a bullet at him. But the problem is those wires he used are pretty damn tough, and he ends up blocking. He's on some Sharon Kruger stuff. Another Trails reference. Sorry. She's one of the few characters I can think of in recent years, or at least that I've come across, that use wires. Not saying she's the only one, but it's like the only character I can think of off the top of my head that uses wires. So that's immediately where, especially because she's in like the kind of assassin, not kind of, straight up was in the assassin profession. Sorry, Jesus. Either way, but he blocks the bullet with the wires and immediately kind of goes kind of Spider-Man and swings his way up to Heisuke. And Heisuke's running for his life, stuff getting sliced up. Even his gun got sliced up, but not before he fired a bullet. But that bullet was meant to be assigned to Sakamoto. Sakamoto grabbed it, makes his way up, and he fights with a part. But a part takes the hit but doesn't go down. And so it becomes a tussle. And, Sakamoto's partway through the fight, it's like, all right, time to do it. And he tries to slim down. He's like, wait, what? And he realizes the blow Mia gave him, makes it so he can't slim down. And I love partway through the fight, he's kind of like, cool, I'm going to take this time to try and slim down. So he's exercising, dashing back and forth. So I was like, oh, is that actually how he slims down so quickly? Like, he actually, like, legitimately just, like, burns his weight, like, really quickly in that regard. Like, is that how that actually works? But it doesn't help, and he's still kind of the same size. And we cut back to Mia, and she kind of explains, like, basically she's like, when someone's out of the game for so long, they try so hard to move like they used to. So for example, in Sakamoto's case, he's so used to moving how he used to move when he was slim that even in his big size, he's still doing the same thing. And he kind of like makes it easy on himself by being like, well, if the fight goes a little tough, I'll slim down. And so it's almost like a crutch. It's like, Mia's like, instead of, even though Sakamoto does do it to some extent, he's not fully adapting to his current circumstances because he will always have the leverage of, I can always go back to the way I did before if I really need to, like, kick it into overdrive. But it's like, that's kind of a cheat. And also, like, you need to, like, keep this in mind because you'll definitely be a lot stronger this way because you're so busy, occupied, like, treating your current body like it's the one you had 5 years ago. And the way you are when you slim. So it's like, it's easy for you to be like, oh, I just need to slim down. It's like, no, get used to moving how you are in this case. And you'll be far stronger. Because obviously a part in his little idiosyncrasies, not liking things being out of order. And then also talking about Sakamoto being filthy because he pulls out his pockets, a whole bunch of junk falls out. He's like, oh, I don't have any actual weapons. But then he points out, like, you and I can never get along. Someone who basically doesn't take care of things, can't take care of people. He's like, oh, I'm not slobbish like that. At least I don't think. He's like, but look at your sandal. And it's literally falling apart. And it's making him realize, like, okay. And Mia used the example of, like, say you have, like, your shoe comes off or you have a broken leg. You need to adjust to that, adapt to that. That's where the fighter's really strong. And the whole situation made Sakamoto kind of finally realize, like, oh, so that's what Mia was trying to get me to realize. Like, once again, adjust to your body. Kind of, he basically has subconsciously been, once again, not thinking about it too much, but also kind of thinking about it because the fact is he bothers slimming down. Is episode, was it 3 and 4 or is it 4 and 5 of part 1? Well, just in general, it's episode 4 or 5. I think that's the only time he's slimmed down so far in the show, isn't it? I believe so. Nope, correction. He slimmed down. I forgot. What was that? Episode 9 or 10 when he was fighting Reindeer. Might have even been 10 or 11. When he was fighting Reindeer guy, I completely forgot he slimmed down then too. So he's only slimmed down twice so far in the series. But either way, once he's now kind of adjusted, now Sakamoto's moving with this body the way he should, and easily duking it out with a part. And now things are kind of getting a lot more serious. So, but a part's like, cool, like, will you listen to me? Because he's like, this is the longest connection I've had with anyone. Will you listen to me? But Sakamoto's like, sorry, but there's too much going on for me to waste time listening to you blabber. broke off a piece of bar, and the two of them are fighting in the tower. So, well, on like the railing pieces to like the tower, the steel bars of the tower. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the rest of that fight plays out. I'm sure that's only gonna take up like part of next episode. I doubt it's gonna be all of next episode, but now this is the final of the 4 inmates. What happens after him? Because like at least it's gonna be interesting too, because the other 3 are dead. But that's because the order stepped in. But like Sakamoto is not going to kill him. But who's a member of the order we haven't seen yet? It's old man with the sword. So I'm assuming he's going to step in and probably kill a part. Like by the time we reach the end. So that's probably going to be interesting that they're going to have their reunion. Because what's his name? Hyo and the old man are the only ones Sakamoto hasn't run into, because obviously he ran into Asuragi and Shishiba during that whole Shin situation during the first part, and obviously has run into Nagamo multiple times. So we'll see if that ends up being the case, but it feels like it is, because he's the only member of the order that hasn't. Well, I mean, Shishiba, didn't really partake, but still, like, he was with Asuragi, so. And then finally we have our little comedic ending post-credits situation where Asuragi and Shishiba are after a target, but it's like, oh, let's go eat ramen, but she's like, I want this, but I guess it's like a superstitious thing of like she might want to eat the same meals all the time before going after a hit, and he's like, can we eat what I want for once? She's like, fine, let's go, I'm hungry. And so I don't know whether Asuragi is doing this on purpose because she thinks it's funny, or whether she's just like, it's just, they're like fire and oil, I guess. Well, fire and ice, I guess, would maybe be another parallel. Just like the mixed match of like, I think they work well as partners, but they're also such an odd coupling as a partnership that continuously Asuragi just doing stuff that you're like, she's got to be fucking with Shishiba, but I don't know if she's doing it on purpose or not. But like, yeah, he's like, oh yeah, these ginger things, it changes the flavor. She's like, here, and dumps all of hers in his food, and he's like, why'd you do that? She's like, you told me to do that. He was like, no, I didn't. She's like, yeah, you did. He's like, no, I didn't. She's like, you said it would change the flavor of the food. He was like, now that is what I said. And then they move on to the next spot, and it was he wanted cilantro, and she ended up taking all the cilantro, and she's like, all the cilantro is mine. Move on to the next spot. He's like, yo, can you hand me some of that spicy sauce? And she hands him like the hottest one. It's called death. He's like, can't you read it? It says death. Gets to the final thing they're eating. He's like, please. Oh God. And he's coveting the bowl. He's like, oh my God, please don't let it spill. He's like, I've been looking forward to this. At the very least, let this be the one thing I get. It's the thing I want the most. And their target sits down at the table. He recognizes they're from the JAA. And then immediately takes off. Asuragi protected her bowl, but Shishiba didn't. I literally audibly screamed out, no! Because I was like, oh, you poor, poor bastard. And then Shishiba flips out and is like, I'm going to kill you. Hammer in hand, chasing after the guy as he's chomping down on his noodles. That's going to make him want to kill you even more. Once again, I love these little extra bits. That's why I'm like so curious. Are those like originally from the anime? Or are those little things, like little sections from little comedic bits from the manga that are getting animated? I'm curious. Irregardless, I think they're just little fun little additions, whether they're from the manga, whether they're just like original to the anime. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with everything. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.